All right, I'll admit all right now.
Mhm. Just waiting for everyone to connect.
Recording in progress.
So I just want to say good evening and thank you everybody for joining us here tonight. We hope to have a useful session that we can all learn a lot about what the PD does and what the next steps are for everybody who's interested in a career in public safety. I do want to take a few minutes just to talk about some of the rules or norms for today. We are recording this, so if I ask that everybody who's not speaking mute themselves until they do actually speak, and just I'll call on you if you raise your hand, and I'll call on you to speak, just so that everyone can have a fair share of time to talk. At this moment, I would like to sort of introduce myself and then introduce some of the panelists, and then they can talk a little bit about themselves and what they've been doing in their career in public safety thus far. So my name is Manisha Tabral. I'm the Director of Planning, Budget and Personnel here for the Cambridge Police Department. I'd like to introduce Sheila Keedy-Rawson.
Hey, everybody.
Sheila's our Director of Personnel over at the city. I'd like to introduce at this time Deputy Superintendent Pauline Wells.
Hello, folks. Just want to say hello and welcome to this seminar that we're going to impart some information that hopefully will get some more women in law enforcement to join the ranks. We appreciate it.
Sergeant DeVito, can you just introduce yourself? Thank you.
Hi, Sergeant DeVito. I actually work for the Boston Police, but I am the secretary of the Mass Association of Women in Law Enforcement. And Cambridge PD was nice enough to invite us here today to talk about recruiting more women in anywhere in policing.
Thank you. Sergeant Halloran.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Sergeant Beth Halloran, and I am with the Cambridge Police Department. My current assignment, I'm the Academy Director of the Cambridge Northeastern Police Academy. We just started our session January 9th. I have 36 student officers, and I'm happy to report 10 of them are females. So it's exciting on my end to see such an uptick. I actually think it's probably the most females we've had in our academy. So I find it super exciting. I wish it was the opposite. I wish it was 10 males and 26 females, but it's a wonderful career. I think we'll talk more about that, but that is my current position with the Cambridge Police.
Thank you. Officer Vieira, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good evening, everyone, and to the panelists, all of you, thank you for coming. My name is Lee Vieira. I am a police officer with the City of Cambridge. I am beginning my 28th year in night patrol. I've been assigned to night patrol my whole entire career, actually. I look forward to answering any questions and seeing definitely more females on this job.
Officer Yearwood.
Hello, I'm Brianna Yearwood. Been on the job 7 years. I'm glad I could be here tonight. It's always a good time to, talk to other females that want to join the job and just, give them insight. And any questions you have, just ask us.
Officer Guerrera.
Hello, everyone. Sorry about the technical issues here. I guess the camera isn't working. Been on the job for 8 years, started my career in Winthrop, transferred over to Chelsea, and hopefully in my last stop is Cambridge. Looking forward to learning from all of you and answering any questions you may have.
I'd like to take this opportunity for Deputy Superintendent Wells, if you can just talk a little bit and give us an overview of the department. I'll talk a little bit about processes and sort of the next steps in the hiring, but I just want to give you an opportunity to talk about CPD.
Hey, folks, and just if I look a little demure and a little not as excited as I normally would, I just had my 4 wisdom teeth out a few hours ago, so I'm putting on my best smile for you all, and I wouldn't miss it for the world, and that's why I'm here. So, you know, we're a very, very professional, modern police department who really at the core of the 21st century policing, we really want to make sure that our police department is really doing the best that it can in the communities that we serve. We have a very diverse population in Cambridge. And we also have a very diverse police department. We have the MIT is here, Harvard is here, so there's lots going on in the city of Cambridge. At nighttime, we probably have 100,000 people. During the day, it probably goes right up to 150, 160,000 people that are coming into the city. And that includes cars, trucks, bikes, people walking, pedestrians, anything and everything you can think of we have here in the city of Cambridge. We have about a 266 person police department, and 12% of that is female. Around the country, I think that's probably a little bit high, but for the Northeast and for Cambridge, it's way too low. As we all know, the people on this call, females have a different perspective as to how to handle problems and solve problems. And we do a great job here in Cambridge of training and helping our police department, helping our police officers figure out how to solve problems, and women just do it better. So just a little overview. And I did want to mention that I have been here for 30 years, and I've done everything from patrol to detectives to administration, criminal investigations. Right now, I oversee the criminal investigation section. I will say self-fulfillment is probably the biggest thing that I would think of when I think of policing as a job or as a commitment or as a profession. Really, service to the community is really at the core of what we do completely. Every single day you can have a positive impact on somebody's life, and that makes all the difference. And as Sergeant Halloran in the police academy, we have one of, if not the best, training in the police academy in the state. So we just want to make sure that people understand that this is really, really an unbelievable profession to be coming into. I know sometimes it can be difficult, but self-fulfillment is where it's at. And this is definitely something that will get that job done. So I appreciate you all being here very much. And I turn it over back to Manisha.
Thank you, Deputy. Actually, I would like to call on Officer Autumn Harrison. I forgot to introduce you, so I apologize. But I'd like to take this opportunity not only to introduce you to everybody, but if you could talk a little bit about your experiences joining the department, you know, how you prepared and what to expect as a police officer.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Autumn Harrison. I've been with Cambridge Police for about 3 years now. I work in night patrol as well. I came on in 2020. I would say preparing for the academy. Just what I try to do is I try to just work on like running, because I was not a big runner, so that's very important. Just running and trying to do like as many like upper body exercises as I can, because you know, for women, we tend to struggle with upper body. So definitely like push-ups and running, I would definitely stress. Before I forget, before I joined the academy, I was a police cadet for a couple months. That was fun. I shadowed the family and social justice unit in that time. So I got to shadow the different family officers, like get to know the different schools, what they deal with, you know, with kids and families. So that was a different perspective. I'm glad I got to do that. In terms of my experiences, it's definitely been a lot of fun. I definitely have a lot more learning to do. you definitely do get tested, just being a woman, a lot of people don't think we can do the job, but obviously that's very false. Yeah, so people try to test you sometimes, but you just got to stand your ground. And most of the time that does the job itself. And if like you ever feel that like you're in an unsure situation, like backup is never far, like our response time is great. So I've never really had to worry about that. Yeah, like I said, I've only been here 3 years. It's a lot of fun. You never know what the job's going to bring. So I've really appreciated that.
Sergeant DeVito, can you talk a little bit about Molly and the work that you guys do and your role at BPD as well?
Yep. So Molly, like I said, the Mass Association of Women in Law Enforcement, we just provide service, support and services to women in law enforcement across the Commonwealth, mostly policing, but also we have members who are in corrections, probation, things like that. And so every year we usually host a conference where we have training. We just had that in October. And that's an opportunity for our members to come together with other females in law enforcement and, learn whether it's new tactics or, how to respond to certain calls. And it's also just a great social networking event to, get to meet and greet other women and talk about, the unique issues that we have. We also do an award ceremony to highlight the great things that our women are doing every year. And then we usually do like one-off trainings throughout the year. A lot of times we can provide those trainings for free. And then just along the way, it's just, more people to talk to. Boston and Cambridge might have more women, but some departments, some of the members that we have, they're the only female in their department. So if they have a question and they might not feel comfortable asking one of their male coworkers, they can reach out to one of us and ask those questions. A lot of things that come up are usually questions about, if your department has maternity leave or you're trying to implement a maternity leave program, like how does that work? We can put them in contact with people in other departments who have gone through that same issue and, maybe get their policies. Right now in Boston, I oversee the detective unit. So that's one of the great things about working in a big department like Cambridge or Boston. You have the opportunity for upward mobility. You can take tests to either get promoted to the rank of sergeant or lieutenant, or you can become a detective if you want to do investigations. Cambridge, also, you have bike units, you have mobile operations, motorcycles. So there's different things that you can do if you're not just want to be a beat cop. There are different avenues that you can take if that's something that you're interested in. So I think that, and a lot of women want to be able to get into those roles. The officer just mentioned the schools. Like if you have a passion for kids and wanting to work with kids, you can go down that avenue. And we need more females in supervisory roles. I'm the only soon to be sergeant detective. I'm one of the only sergeant detectives, even in the Boston Police right now, that's supervising a district unit. So there is a need. So we need more females to get on the job and take tests. And any questions that you have, whether it's, related to Molly, Boston specific, I'm happy to answer any questions. I did put my contact info in the chat as well.
Thank you. Officer Vera, can you talk a little bit how policing's changed? You've been on our department for quite some time now. Can you talk about how it's changed from when you first came on to like today and how things are different?
You had to pick me first, right? So when I came on 28 years ago, I already had females that, took me in and kind of, they were my role models. But even 28 years ago, there were men on the job that, still didn't think that we should be there. So, I mean, you have to prove yourself not only to yourself, but to also to them. And I was lucky enough to come into a department where the women that, were already there were strong women, had already paved the way, had already, show that, we can be here. We deserve to be here just like you. And so I didn't find that I had a difficult time really adjusting to it. I mean, I had a difficult time adjusting because I didn't have any prior law enforcement experience or, you know, from none of my family members were ever in law enforcement. So I was the first one. And so that was probably my biggest challenge. And also what I found too was just perception and how people perceived you as a female in that uniform. I didn't really have an issue in my department, more so, but with how the public perceived me. You know, was I able to do the job? Was I strong enough? So those were things. I mean, looking back and to what I started with and what I have, I think there's been a great improvement. We're not where we should be. I feel like, you know, absolutely, there should definitely be more police officers, female police officers on this job, but it's definitely more accepted, I want to say, or more just, I feel like we don't have to prove ourselves as much. And just being integrated into different units, like a lot of the things, you know, one of the things that for me was that, you know, we were going to come on this job and then we weren't going to be in patrol. You know, we wanted to go elsewhere and you didn't want to be on the street. I loved being on the street. I've been in night patrol my whole entire career. So that's also a perception that, you know, some of the guys that you work with, you know, think like, oh, they're just going to come on and, you know, they're going to be elsewhere. And then you have other guys that are like, you know what, I would choose to work with her over some other guys. So there's a little bit of both. But again, I am fortunate to work with an amazing group of women. Don't think, you know, we all have our good days and bad days, but I feel like, you know, we all stick together and, you know, try to help each other along. So, yeah. That would be it.
Thank you. Sergeant Halloran, you've worked in various units within the department, and now you're the Academy Director. Can you talk about a little bit about your experience, and then maybe that's a nice segue into some of the Academy, you know, experiences and what it's like to you having been in the Academy and now running the Academy. And
Sure. So I started as a civilian with the department in 1998. So I've been with the department just over 26 years. I went through the Academy in 2002, and I was one of two females in the Academy, and I found it god awful because it was two of us and it was 100 of them, it felt like, even though it wasn't. And I had some of similar experiences that Officer Vieira had. I felt like, you know, you had to watch who your supervisor was. You know, they don't like females, you can't talk to them. And this was, you know, 20 years ago. Has it changed? Like, immensely. I think it's evolved into something that is supportive of any uniqueness. And it's not just male, female, but you're made to feel comfortable regardless of, you know, whatever differentiates you from that typical white male cop. So I feel like even just I mean, it's been a long time that I've been with Cambridge Police, but I just feel like that evolution and Cambridge in the way that they welcome differences, and it's okay to be different. It's okay to not be the norm, and just you're able to be yourself. My academy experience was very different than the one that I have now too, which I'm very proud to say. I went to Lowell, and it was known, and its reputation was a running academy. So you went there on week one and you were expected to run 10 miles by the time you left. And even talking now and talking to the recruits that we have now, is that a gauge for a police officer? Not really. And it's also one of the issues we see in terms of entry level physical standards that we have. So we offer a lot. And what I stress as soon as we get a hold of people that are interested in coming to the academy is it's much more than just the exam that you take. That's the start. That's how you get your foot in the door. But once you take the exam, you need to prepare yourself mentally and physically for what it is you want to do. And oftentimes we see wonderful candidates, some of which I see on here tonight, that just aren't able to meet the physical standards that are set by the Massachusetts Police Training Committee. It's not set by Cambridge Police, it's a standard throughout the state of Massachusetts. And unfortunately, we see so many good candidates that just can't meet the physical standards. So you take that exam, take it by all means, but then you really have to work to be physically able to get into the academy. And I also, you know, I stood before our 36 recruits every day, and, you know, some of them, we have one student officer now, it was their fourth time. They finally passed the physical standards this time around. It was their fourth time trying. They had failed. They have been unsuccessful the past 3 years, and they finally failed. So they worked so hard to get here. it's not easy when you get in, but if you get in, myself and my staff will get you where you need to be. And that's a reward in and of itself, not only physically, but that transformation that you're looking for and that you're asking for to become that police officer is something that we take great pride in. So again, I can't stress enough, you take that written exam and then you really have to work physically. And we do offer sessions, we offer help. I mean, most people that come year in and year out that aren't successful, our contact information is out there. And I think if there's anybody on here that wants to touch base, we provide workouts, we give, ideas of how you can better your performance so that you're able to meet the standards. The entry level standards are on the MPTC website. So what I always say is you should take that exam, and when you take it, you should be given the standards and what you're going to be required to do for entrance into the academy. Because I think that's, again, it's so much more than just that written test that you have to take, but take that test. And when you take it, I believe it's March through April of this year, go in there and know what's expected of you in 4, 5, 6 months when that physical test comes along, and myself and my staff are there testing, have those standards there so that you can spend the next, 4, 5, 6 months getting to where you need to be physically. I forget. The other unit. So I started in patrol, then I worked in the detective unit. I worked major crimes. I worked sexual assault and domestic violence. Then I went back to the patrol unit. And then I was promoted just about 2 years ago, and I worked in the professional standards unit, also known as internal affairs, prior to becoming the academy director just about 6 months ago. And then, as I said, we started our academy class, our 5th recruit officer class on January 9th.
Thank you, Sergeant. I was going to reach out to Officer Guerra next to talk about why she specifically chose CPD. You transferred from various departments and picked CPD. So what makes us different to the other departments that you've worked at?
So when I used to work in Chelsea PD, we used to be able to come and work details at the city of Cambridge. And I used to work them all detail a lot. And I was basically recruited by Detective Moy, Officer Moy now, and Officer Chu, and they just explained like Cambridge is a great department. This is all the units we have. This is how much we make. And comparing it to Chelsea, I've always wanted to, go into different units. I love patrol, but also specializing yourself, I think, makes you such a rounded officer. And funny thing is, I had already put out a down payment in Everett, because initially I said, you know what, I'll transfer over to Everett PD. It's a decent sized department. And I lost my down payment, which at the time was like $1,700. And I got an apartment here in Cambridge, came over, and I was just motivated by, how much work there was, the unit, the size of the department. I remember going to police week when I was in Chelsea, took place in Washington. And I remember seeing Deputy Wells singing there at an Irish pub. And I'm like, and we had a short conversation. I don't know if she can recall that. And I was just motivated. I'm like, wow, to see a female in rank, I'm like, that's pretty motivating as a female myself. I'm like, I want to be in a department that motivates females to go higher, like get up in rank, be in unit. So that's basically why. And once I was here, I don't regret it. And I've told people, and I've had to do it again, I would do it again. I feel comfortable here. I feel welcome. I wasn't born in the US. I came here when I was 8. And I feel like here I'm actually taken as an asset. I'm bilingual, and I always see people, can I use you? And so I feel welcome. And that's why I'm still here.
Thank you for that. Officer Yearbert, can you talk a little bit about your experiences? You've been on the job a couple of years now, how things have changed, what you did to prep for the exam, and then to entrance into the academy.
So sorry if you hear my dog growling and crying, because I'm not paying attention to her right now. But yeah, so I've been on 7 years. I actually started with the city in 2011 at traffic and parking. And then from there, I took the exam. I had to take it 2 times. The second time I got on, I actually took it a 3rd time just in case. But since then, I've been in patrol. I was on nights, and then I went back to days, or down to days, I should say. And much better lifestyle on days for me. I like sleeping in my own bed. But just my experiences of just preparing, it's just, working out before the academy, push-ups, sit-ups. I don't think you really prepare yourself until you get in there and actually do the work there. But ahead of time, it is good to start running, start doing push-ups and just getting in shape, and just preparing yourself physically, mentally. It's a long 6 months in the academy. So you have to be able to, just survive. You have to have a strong support system. And just, you gotta just hang in there. You'll make it through. You'll be fine. Once you're on the job, you'll be like, oh, it was worth it. There's times you're gonna want to quit and you're gonna hate it, but you love it at the end. Like, it's a rewarding job. So just my experiences since I've been on, there's been a lot of changes. Like I said, like a lot of the females, you have to prove yourself to people out on the street because they're, like Autumn said, they're going to test you. But just more so for yourself, forget about everybody else. You're doing this for you. So if this is what you want to do, go for it. That's all I can say. Just try, give it your all. That's mainly, I love working the streets. So I'll probably end up staying in patrol the majority of my career. I like being out in the front line, being out on the street, just interacting with the people. Right now I walk Harvard Square 2 days out the week. Sometimes I'm inside, sometimes I'm main places I am are North Cambridge where I work. So, but I mean, people forget patrol that's the backbone of everything on this department. That's where everything starts, begins, where you talk to everybody, get all the information. And that's what I love to do. I love talking to people. I love meeting new people and just networking out there.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions from anybody here? If you can raise your hands if you've got any questions, or turn your camera on if you can.
So I don't know how this works, Manisha, but this thing on the bottom says 3 chats. So I don't know if those are questions down there, but I'm not really a Zoomer, so.
Oh, those are just things that we put in there, some information stuff. Jeremy put some deadline stuff in there. I also put the deadlines in there. Sergeant Halloran, why don't you talk a little bit about what the academy is and like what to expect when you get into the academy?
Sure. So just give me an off button because I might just keep talking. I was actually going to touch on what Officer Yearwood was saying because, again, it's a lot of what we preach to the recruits right now is it's 6 months, but it's a rewarding 34 years of your life. You will commit to that. And it's the reward for that grueling 6 months. We just had an informational session not too long ago that a few people showed up to, and we had recruits that were in the last class that came through, and I didn't know it actually until one of them said it, but they said it was the hardest 6 months of their life. And again, every situation varies depending on whatever home is to you or whatever home life looks to you. It's different for everybody, and you really have to put aside and make that your priority because we ask a lot, we demand a lot. We put you under a lot of pressure, but it's intentional pressure. It's intentional because we want you to know what it's like to feel that pressure because it's something that you more likely than not will encounter when you graduate, when you're out on the street. We want you to know what it's like, to have people not necessarily yelling in your face, but demanding reports be written, demanding things done in a timely fashion, being punctual, being where you're supposed to be when you're told to be there, because again, that's all things that's required of you when you get to your respective departments. It is grueling. We start a lot in the classroom. We'll be in the classroom for probably the first 3.5 to 4 months, and then we transition to offsite, more so, practical exercises in terms of emergency vehicle operation, and then we spend weeks at the range to familiarize you with weaponry and what you use specific to your department. So we spend the latter half of or the final few weeks, I should say, of the academy. We have it's called APP, Applied Patrol Procedure, And it is real life scenarios that we run at a vacant building in Newton, and we run for 8 full days, 8 to 10 hours each day, and you're cycled through and you're responding to calls and putting yourself, in those situations. You're making arrests, you're writing reports, and then we close that when we finish with our scenarios. We give you an idea of what it's like to, you make the arrest and then you go to court and then you testify. And then what we do, we also do mock trials so that you have an understanding of what it's like when you're called to the stand and you testify, you're cross-examined, and we do all of that. So we do the 8 days of applied patrol procedure, and then you write your reports, and then we go to court, and you actually sit and you're questioned, and there's a mock judge there, and there's mock attorneys, and you have to identify yourself. So again, so when you do it for the first time, when you go to your agency, you have some idea of what you're doing. You can think back to what you did. But it is long. We're in day 7, and I feel like I'm in day 107, but it's long, it's tiring, it's exhausting, but it's worth every bit of it. Like I said, everyone sitting on this panel, sworn officer, we did it, and I have no regrets. I would do it all over again. It is super rewarding, and we need more people, females. We need people giving back to the community, and there's no better service as far as I'm concerned than giving back. I was born and raised in Cambridge. There's no better feeling for me than to walk the streets that I once walked as a kid. So.
Thank you. Sergeant DeVito?
Having trouble with that unmute button. I just wanted to point out that I put in the information for Jago Boston in the chat. If anyone's interested, they run a pre-academy program. They're in week 2 right now. I was able to work out with them this past Saturday. It's as close as you can get to an actual academy that I've seen. So if you want to know what you would be getting into, I highly suggest looking into it. They do physical training, and they also do the classroom aspect. They have guest speakers come in several weeks on Saturdays. They're on week 2 of the current program, but if in past years, it looks like they've done 2 a year, so they'll probably have another one in the fall. So if you were to take the civil service test this spring, you could do something like that this fall. As others have said, you have to prepare yourself before the academy. You cannot just show up day 1 and you haven't been running or you haven't been working out. Just keep in mind, when you're in the academy, you're working out 5 days a week. So if you're not currently working out 5 days a week and breaking a sweat and running at least a mile comfortably, you need to get yourself in that position. It's an investment. It's a worthy investment. You're going to set yourself up for the future. You're going to make a great amount of money. You're going to set your family up for the future. You're going to have great benefits, education, incentive. So to hire a personal trainer to get you ready for the academy to ensure that you are comfortable and graduate is worth it. I know, some people say, I don't want to spend the money. Spend a little bit of money to prepare yourself for the academy. Because I can tell you right now, you don't want to be the weak link in the academy. It'll make it a lot smoother if you show up and you can say, you know what, I got this. I prepared myself. I want this. The 6 months in the academy will go a little easier if you show up mentally and physically ready.
Thanks so much. Taylor, I see you've unmuted. Did you have a question?
Yes, I had a question.
Go ahead.
So I've been doing some research and everything, and I've been wanting to join the academy and take the exam, but unfortunately, I just started working, so I know the late deadline's the 31st. Is there any way to still register after the 31st and get the money for the exam after?
I can answer her question. I do highly recommend civil service or calling. If you email or call, help depending on financial hardship. and they will waive the fee for you. So they have that on the government site. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. You were breaking up.
So I think she said that there's a link on the civil service website to apply for a fee waiver. They do that for financial hardship, if that's your question. In terms of late deadlines, I would reach out honestly to the civil service, and we can put the link and email in the chat there for you to reach out to civil service to see what they will do in terms of accommodations for late applications. You do still have some time because the deadline is January 31st. So you've got like just over 2 weeks there if you wish to apply. But yeah, definitely reach out to the civil service, and they'll be able to let you know if they still accept applications. Unfortunately, we don't control that at the department level.
Okay, thank you.
Also, Jeremy Warnick put that, the fee waiver information in the chat. The link.
Thank you, Jeremy. I was actually going to ask Sergeant Halloran again, sorry to pick on you, but you've also worked as part of our backgrounds unit when we do the applications. We go through and look at the applicants from the list. So can you talk a little bit about what in general the department looks for in terms of its background process, what applicants can do to better position themselves through the background process?
Sure. So we do have an extremely thorough background check. That being said, I've had several conversations with many people. I think we were all 17 once, and we all may have made stupid mistakes. It doesn't preclude you from any type of civil service position. The way that we weigh it is recency, intensity, and severity. Those are three kind of sticking points that we use, and we have very open conversations with all of our applicants, again, in terms of how recent, how frequent, and the intensity of it. So we do have these conversations. We ask for complete and utter honesty when you fill out your application, even though, again, it may be something that you had, you were in a bad way when you were 16, 17, 18, and now you're 24 and you've had a full-time job and everything has changed. Again, we just want full disclosure, and we want honesty. We don't want to find out about something that happened to you because you were either ashamed, or you didn't think we would find out, or you didn't think we wanted to know. So that's the one thing I think that's very different about us. We do a very thorough background, and we ask that everybody is really upfront on pen and paper when you come in and sit and do the application. It's lengthy, it's thorough, it's time consuming. I think it typically, just to complete and fill out the application, it's roughly 2.5 to 3 hours, depending on how old you are. We've had applicants that are in their 40s that have had, 25 jobs. We have had applicants that are 21 and have had 1 job. So again, it varies depending on, how old you are and then what your history exactly is. But I guess the big thing that we ask, and we do stress this on the evening of intakes when people come in to fill out the applications, is that just be upfront and honest with us. And again, we're human. We've all made mistakes. We want to hear it from you, and then we'll have open discussion and dialogue about it, and whether or not it does preclude you, or it could potentially preclude you. We talk about it, and we air it all out there, and then we go from there.
Thank you. One of the steps that everyone takes prior to joining beginning the background process is actually taking the exam, and we put the deadlines up in the chat there. But wanted to call on Officer Harrison to talk a little bit about her experiences and what she did to prepare to take that exam.
Hi again. Yeah, so preparing for the civil service, I know at the time our department put on like study sessions where we had we had an instructor come in and go through, there's a book that you can study from. So we went through the book, and we actually did like practice questions where we'd go over them, we'd answer them, and then we'd go back and then we'd find out like, why is this the right answer and why the rest are incorrect. So I found that to be very helpful. I hear a lot of time people say like, oh, like I don't need to study, like it's common sense. Like, don't get me wrong, it is like a common sense test, but I think it's always helpful to study. The better you study, like the higher score you'll get, and that helps later on down the line when you get on with like seniority. That comes with its own advantages. But just taking like every advantage that you can get, like the sessions were very helpful. Even if like you don't attend a session, just getting the book, I think you can order the book online or even at the library, so it's pretty accessible. And then I just studied with like friends and other people who were taking the tests too. That was helpful. So yeah, I just mainly attended the sessions and just went through the problems with friends, and that's what really helped me and got me to be able to get a good score on the test.
If I could just touch really quickly on what Autumn said. So again, another big thing to remember is when you get to the academy, it's a lot of academics and it's a lot of work. And we do have, we have quizzes, we have exams, and it's something that again is run by MPTC. So academics is a huge component, especially the first 8 to 10 weeks. So if you're going to take the civil service exam, prepare yourself to study and learn academics, because again, similar to the physical component of it, the academics in the academy are just as heavy, and if not even more intense. Autumn, maybe you could touch on that, but even more intense than just the initial exam. Like I said, we do dismiss. I was with the academy last year, and we did have dismissals, and it's beyond our control. But if the student officers don't pass the exams, and there's a criteria that's set, and I tell everybody what that is, but if you don't pass the exam, MPTC will dismiss you from the academy. So it's kind of, again, if it's something that you really want to do, it's a huge commitment and an undertaking, but it's worth it. We're all here to tell you it's worth it. But I do remember that it's much bigger and much more than just that civil service exam that you guys are talking about in March and April. It's a physical component, not only leading up to the academy, but once you get into the academy, and then the academic component once you get into the academy as well. Autumn, I don't know if you want to touch on that. Just you're so new that like you can relate what you took in the civil service exam to the academics that were actually in the academy too.
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely say yes. Out of all the tests, I would say the civil service was definitely the easiest out of the ones from the academy. But yeah, I think one thing in my class we especially took advantage of was like kind of what I touched on before was like study sessions, like academy days that can really be long, but just taking that extra time to just like meet at the library, meet somewhere and get together with like, I don't know, 2 to 3, however big you want to do it, and just going over what you guys learned. Cause as Sergeant Halloran said, like the academics are very rigorous, and, you do have to pass them. So, and you're learning important things, obviously, like laws, people's rights, among many other things. So just getting together with folks. We were really big on like making study guides too. Like that was really helpful. Like it's not something you can just wait to the day of the test and try to wing it. Like you need to study for it and you need to know it for your career as well.
Thanks. And I've actually posted a link to the chats there. All the preparation guides that are available on the civil service website. That includes a written exam prep guide, a PAT prep guide, and then any other resources that you'd want about how to become a police officer. You can just follow from that link there. Brianna, do you want to talk a little bit about the physical abilities test?
I mean, I only had to do the PAT. I didn't have to do like the new Cooper standards, like all that. So the physical ability test I took is different from what they'll be doing now. I mean, I know the first, like the part that I took is the same thing, but they added a whole other section to that. I mean, just run, like get out there and run, do the push-ups, do the sit-ups. I think do you still have to go over the wall, Beth? I don't even know.
Yeah, so that's the PAT, the physical abilities
Okay.
test is the PAT in Hudson. And then the component they brought back in 2019 was the Cooper test. So that's what I was referring to before. So the Cooper test consists of push-ups, sit-ups, 1.5 miles, and a 300-meter run. And depending on your male or female, and depending on your age, the standard is different for each. So like I was saying earlier, when you take that exam, and I actually think, Manisha, we used to hand that stuff out when they came in to sign. we used to hand out depending, and you can find it on the MPTC website too, but you will know what you need to do and the time you need to do it and how much you need to do. It's all outlined on the MPTC website. So the PAT is one component, and then they did bring back the Cooper, which actually I think Lee, we did that way back, right? That was, I think, yeah, and Deputy Wells, right? Like, I think we were at 70%. Now MPTC requires that you have to complete 30%. 30%. You have to do it in the 30th percentile. And then again, and with testing in the academy, in week 10 of the academy, you need to complete that same test in 1.5 miles, 300 meters, sit-ups and push-ups, and you have to meet the 40th percentile. And if you don't meet that 40th percentile, then you can be dismissed from the academy. So again, it's just building on those skills. So the test taking skills of the civil service exam, and then building on those physical skills, because it's all just preparing you for 6 months of a police academy. So.
And I mean, the instructors in the police academy, those 5 days a week that you're working out, they're getting you ready to retake that exam. And also, prior to getting into the police academy and to having to do the Cooper and the PAT, we have sessions at the Cambridge Police Department to prepare you for those things. So you'll know exactly what it is that you need to do, what time you need to do it in, and how many you need to do. And we'll have people ahead of time working with you to make sure that you hopefully are able to pass ultimately.
We do also offer a mock physical ability test, a mock PAT test. We offer this past year, we had it open for 3 weeks. I believe we had it open for Monday through Friday for 3 full weeks. We open it up to all agencies. Anyone wants to try it. I will say that the percentage of failures for the PAT is significantly less than failures of the Cooper. I believe it's a 2% failure rate for the PATs, but the Cooper failures is significantly higher. So
I do want to add that you get 2 shots at the PAT too. So, it's not one and done. You get a second chance, but you have to show significant improvement between the first and the second try, but you do get 2 shots at it.
And to your point, Deputy Wells, too, in the academy, so you pass the 30th percentile to get into, that's what you have to for MPTC standards. And then at the 10-week mark, we administer the Cooper again. And I've told all 36 recruits, I haven't done my job and the staff hasn't done their job if you're not able to get that 40th percentile. You come in every day, 5 days a week, you work out with us, you will surpass, even 40%. There's no doubt. We have Cambridge Northeastern Police Academy has not dismissed anyone for failure of that PT because our PT is spot on. It's rigorous. It's fantastic.
Just wanted to reach back out to everybody and see if they've got any questions. This is your opportunity, guys. All right. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about sort of next steps and the things that you'll have to do to even join to get as far as the backgrounds. So as you know, the deadline for applying for the exams, the last deadline is January 31st. They will then start sending out notices to appear for the exam on March 3rd. The exams again will be held from March 18th through April 1, and then they haven't released a deadline of when they're going to release those scores. But once the scores are available, departments call for a list. We'll call for a list also. Anybody listing Cambridge residency as their preference will be put on this list that we receive in order of their score. We will then go and hire, based upon our vacancies, the number of people. But each individual will have to pass a medical exam, a physical component, the PAT, which we've talked about, and a psychological evaluation. Now, some of these things you can't prepare for, like you can't prepare for the psychological evaluation, but as we've talked here in depth, you can prepare for the medical and you can prepare for the exam to give yourself the best chance of getting in. Once you've done all of those things and you've passed the background, then we'll basically call you for an interview and you'll get invited to join our academy. Beth's talked a little bit about how intense that academy is, but you'll form lifelong friendships with the people in that academy, I think, and all of the officers here can attest to still being really close to the people that they went to the academy with. And I did want to actually ask Angelica, you just transferred over to our FSJS unit, which is, I think, quite unique. And can you tell us some of the unique work that that unit does and what it stands for?
Yeah, so I'm an outreach officer. I think I've been in the position for 8 months now, 9 months. We provide services to the unhoused people that are drug dependent. We work with community court, trying to get people that, let's say they want to secure housing in the city. And let's say they have an open case in Boston Municipal Court. So because they have an open case, through our partnership with the court system, we can have that case transfer over to our community court, clear their cases, and get people on their waiting list. We also, for example, we started taking donations from other officers, and in the wintertime, we have a bunch of coats in the back of our cruiser. We provide them to the unhoused, mainly in Central Square. Work with the senior center. We discuss cases of elderly that we think are being abused financially, mentally. We also work with Somerville Cambridge Elder Services. We make referrals that we think people are, let's say, suffering from hoarding. We coordinate for cleanups, Meals on Wheels. We also set them up with services, quality of life issues, which is something that I really like. For example, why is crime taking place at a specific spot? So we look for things like how much light is in that area. Why are people using that specific area to seek shelter, to sell drugs? We work with DPW members from the community, like what can we relocate to prevent these things from happening? Let's say someone is drinking in public. If we see them, drinking in public, we have a right of arrest. But our approach, the Cambridge approach, is we go and we connect with this person. What's your story? Why are you doing this? Do you have a home? Are you interested in detox? If they are interested in detox, we have social workers. The other departments that I've worked at, we do not have social workers. And, for example, Sabrina, she specializes in opioid and alcohol abuse. She's able to coordinate treatment with these individuals. Then that person gets assigned, for example, to me as a case, and I follow up with them, make sure, if they have an open case, I help them through community court. If they continue to drink to the point that they're, posing a harm to themselves, I will go to the courthouse, petition before a judge for a Section 35, have them involuntarily committed to receive treatment, help family members who want to commit their family members due to the abuse of drugs or alcohol. So basically, my unit, we do so many things. Encampments, quality of life. For example, Boston. A lot of you guys know that certain areas of Boston, it's just there's so many tents put up, so many crimes taking place. The guys that I work with, we go to these encampments and we work with the people. We tell them this is not allowed, this isn't safe. We give them a time frame of when it needs to be cleaned up. We just don't go and get rid of their stuff. This is people's belongings, their life. Connect them with services if they want to. And then we coordinate with DPW. We conduct cleanups because our unit, our thing is, we'll give you services, but we refuse to let these type of encampments be set up, which poses a risk to their lives and then the quality of life around the area. So we do a lot of things, and I've always been fascinated by the community service portion of policing, and I'm very happy to be here. I think I found my niche, to be honest.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to add anything that may have been missed, or does anybody have any questions?
I do have one question. So my name is Molly, and I just had a question. Is it after you take the civil service exam is when you kind of apply to be on the applicant list of the Cambridge Police Department, or?
So as part of your application to take the exam, you list your residency preference on there. So when you take it, you'll add Cambridge as your residency preference. Just a reminder about residency preference too. You have to live in Cambridge for a full year prior to taking the exam to be able to qualify as a Cambridge resident for hiring purposes. And those are the rules because we are a civil service department.
Okay. If that is not the case, can you still apply? It's just like you wouldn't get the residency preference.
Yeah, so unfortunately for Cambridge, we can't hire anybody that hasn't lived in Cambridge for the year prior to the exam. We'd love to be able to hire everybody who's interested in becoming a Cambridge police officer, but unfortunately those rules are not written by us.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
I just wanted to add one thing. I think Taylor was the one that asked the question about the sorry, I just lost my train of thought, about not having the waiver in time, and you had just started a new job, Taylor. My recommendation would be to, if you can do it and you can get that waiver, at least have your options open. That way you don't have to wait another year to take the exam. So if you can somehow figure out the waiver and register for the exam, I know you have 2 weeks, but do it even though you started the new job, and then you can figure out what you really want to do, but at least you'll be registered for the exam to take it.
So does the exam happen every year or every 2 years? I was told every 2 years.
So they recently changed it and they do it every year. And so your results are good for 2 years, but the exam is every year.
Hi, so this is Sheila, and I just wanted to say, part of the challenge with these exams is that sometimes the schedules change unexpectedly. And so even though the Commonwealth has been saying that they're going to hold exams every year, depending upon sort of a new administration or new fiscal situations, you just can't predict what the future holds. So if you're interested and you're ready now, I would follow Sergeant Halloran's advice and register for it now, if to the extent that you can. The other piece, sort of jumping on what both Officer Harrison and Sergeant Halloran have been talking about in terms of prepping for the exam and prepping for your background check, is, this is the time to clean up all those sort of little nitpicky things that might show up on a background check. So things like unpaid parking tickets and unpaid excise taxes and water bills that may have been delayed. Those are the kind of things that will sink you in the end, especially if we've only got 10 slots and there are 12 people vying for those 10 slots. The ones that haven't cleaned up those pieces are the ones that are going to be left by the wayside. So I would do that cleanup work now before you get into the final rounds.
Sergeant DeVito, I felt like you were going to say something.
I didn't want to drag anyone away from Cambridge, but if you do not qualify as a Cambridge resident for the test, we are, I can't guarantee it, but we are so desperate for people in Boston that there has been rumors that we would go to non-residents. If you scored very high on the test, you could very well compete with Boston residents. We just simply don't have, we are 2,000, we're supposed to be a 2,200 person department. So we're obviously a lot bigger than Cambridge. We recently called for laterals, which is for officers that are already in civil service departments to lateral over to our department. And they're looking to put on a 200 person, at least a 200 person academy once or twice next year. So we are definitely looking for bodies. So if you didn't have a preference, and unless if you know someone else who's looking to apply and they don't necessarily have a residency, obviously you would have to move to Boston at some point, but you wouldn't have to have necessarily that year before the test. But if you live in Cambridge, make sure that you check off the Cambridge residency. Is it still, do you still pick 3? It's been a while. Is that like you still, does anyone know, like, when you
Do you
check
mean
off,
like
you,
times 2+1? Is that what you mean? Oh,
like
three.
you check
res-
Cambridge is your residency, but like you're like a second and third choice? Is that
Yeah,
still?
you can
Yes.
still.
I think so. Officer Harrison was going to say something there.
Oh, sorry, I was probably laughing, but yeah, 3 years ago when I took it, I did do
I was
the
like,
three
she would-
options.
Okay. I was like, it was like that 12 years ago, but
And 30 years ago.
Nobody else has questions? Come on, girls.
I did just want to thank the couple of ladies that did join in the session and ask some questions and showed some interest, whether it's Cambridge, whether it's Boston, whether it's anywhere else. And like they said, if you're thinking about it already, the test is here in a couple weeks. Apply for the deadline, do the fee waiver if you need to, but take it, because you never know when Cambridge is going to call or anyone else is going to call. And like Sheila said, it used to be every 2 years. They've recently switched to 1 year. They could very well go back to 2 years. So it's here, just take it. It's a great opportunity to get into policing in any department as a female. We need more people in general. We definitely need more females. They have 12%. We're about 14% of the department. Nationwide, there's a goal to get at least 30%, the 30 by 30 initiative. But we need anyone and everyone. If you know anyone else, young ladies, if you have friends that aren't sure what they want to do, whether or not they're already in a job or a career and they want to switch, or if they're, just graduating college and they're looking for something new, this is a great career. Autumn can tell you, she's been doing it for a couple of years. Every day is different. It's, if you don't, like, I know I personally, even though now I'm in an office, but like, I didn't want to be in like that office life. I didn't want to do the 9 to 5 and just like do the same thing every day. Every day I come in is different. I'm in investigations now. I can kind of like get up and move around. I can go out on the street if I want to. I do miss like being like answering calls, but now I get to like kind of go after the fact and do investigations. It's just a unique opportunity. And I highly suggest that you or any of your friends that are interested look into it. Contact anyone. Deputy Wells put in her contact information. If you have questions after the fact, reach out to her, reach out to anyone. Anyone would be more than willing to help you and answer your questions, because we want to help you and give you the support you need to get through the process. I know it sounds scary, like we're talking about like getting prepared like for academics and physical training, but we're there to help you because we want you to succeed. Nobody wants anyone to fail from the academy, because we want you to succeed. So if you need help or have any questions along the way, reach out to anyone.
I will also say that we're planning to hopefully have another exam prep session. So watch this space and watch our website for updates in terms of when those are going to be held. If nobody has any more questions, or if the panelists are just going to give you last opportunity to say some words of wisdom. If not, I'd like to thank everybody for their time. Thank you so much for joining today. Appreciate everyone's time.